counterfeit artist Lee Man, Aaron Kwok, is extradited to Hong Kong from a Thailand jail. The Hong Kong police force are investigating a series of murders and robberies involving counterfeit notes. The mastermind behind these crimes is a mysterious figure known only as the Painter, who is the alleged head of his own counterfeit operation and Lee's boss. Lee refuses to expose Painter, insisting that his life will be in danger, but Inspector Ho, Catherine Chow, counters, claiming to have evidence linking Lee to the murders. The proceedings are interrupted by the arrival of noted artist Yun Man, Zhang Jingchu, who attempts to have Lee freed on bail. An agreement is reached where Lee will be released into witness protection in exchange for exposing the identity of the painter and recounting the history of their criminal activity. During the 1990s, Lee and Yun lived together in Vancouver as lovers and painters, but failed to sell any of their artworks and struggled to make ends meet. They have a reversal of fortune when an agent finds Yun's artwork and recognizes her artistic talent. However, Lee's own original art is criticized for only imitating the styles of the great masters. Lee realizes his skill at imitation and reluctantly becomes an art forger to make a living, but Yun disapproves. Lee's work as a forger is noticed by the painter, Chow Yun-fat, who invites Lee to join his counterfeit banknote operation. Frustrated at his own art's lack of success, Lee agrees to leave Canada with the goal of returning and winning over Yun. Painter also offers to help Lee with his romantic ambitions. Working with Painter's team to overcome the security features of the new 1996 US $100 bill, Lee finds success in his new role, but is reluctant to cooperate with Painter's erratic and often violent methods, especially after an intense armored car hijacking in Canada resulting in the deaths of all the guards. With their stock of new bills, Painter's team travel to Thailand to renegotiate their contract with crime boss the General. Painter declines the General's terms and reveals that he has come to Thailand for revenge, knowing that the General was responsible for the death of Painter's father years earlier. During the destruction of the compound, Lee rescues Souching, the General's own counterfeit expert. Meanwhile, Yun has been making a successful career as an artist. When Painter and Lee visit one of her exhibitions, Painter informs Lee he has bought all the art, for Lee to decorate his new Thailand mansion and impress Yun. Confused by Lee's negative reaction, Painter learns that Yun is already engaged to marry her agent. Souching joins Painter's team after recovering from her injuries. Painter gives her a fake passport with the name Yun Man, to Lee's bemusement. Painter learns that the next buyer for the counterfeit money is an undercover law enforcement agent from the Canadian police. In the hotel room where the buyer meets Painter's team, Painter claims to want to exit the counterfeit business and offers to sell the buyer the printing plate. Lee is asked by Painter to retrieve the box containing the plate and offer the plate to the buyer, but the box only contains a handgun. The buyer sees a reflection of the gun while Lee hesitates and Painter is forced to shoot the buyer in the ensuing struggle. Frustrated with Lee's lack of willpower, Painter reveals that Yun and her agent are bound and blindfolded in the next room. Painter insists that if Lee really wants Yun in his life then he needs to prove it by killing the agent. When Lee refuses to do so, Painter shoots the agent himself, causing Lee to angrily turn his gun at the Painter. Almost everybody is killed in the chaos that follows. Lee, Souching, and Yun are the only survivors and the former two flee to Lee's new home in Thailand. The newspapers report that Painter's body was never found, and Lee is eventually arrested by the Thai police after being found with counterfeit banknotes. As he is being taken away, Lee sees Painter in a crowd waving at him, implying that he was the one that planted the counterfeits on Lee. In present-day Hong Kong, Lee and Yun are escorted to a hotel. Inspector Ho notices a man matching Lee's description of Painter who is dressed in uniform and attempting to enter police headquarters. He is ambushed and captured. Confused, the man insists he is a legitimate police officer, and was the driver who brought Lee Man from the airport to police HQ days earlier. It is revealed that while the events of Lee's story are mostly accurate, Lee's description of Painter is fabricated and Lee himself was Painter all along. The real Yun Man is painting in China, while the Yun Man in Hong Kong is actually Souching, who received cosmetic surgery to look like Yun following the burns she received in the raid on the General's compound. Souching had feelings for Lee, but then realized that Lee was only using her as a replica of the real Yun Man, so she turned Lee into the police in Thailand for counterfeiting. While in prison, Lee wrote to Xiaoqing asking for forgiveness and for her to help him escape, to which she eventually agrees. Lee and Xiaoqing kill their guards and escape Hong Kong by boat. The next day, Xiaoqing reveals to Lee that she has been deliberately sailing in circles and they are still in Hong Kong waters. As the police surround them, she describes how she is tired of living with two identities as a replacement to Lee's love for Yun Man, and detonates a cache of explosives on the boat. Later in China, Inspector Ho visits Yun Man to inform her that Painter has been killed. Yun is indifferent to the news, saying that Painter's death will not do anything to bring back her fiancé. Asked if she recognizes Lee's photograph, Yun simply states that the man used to be her neighbor. The part of Lee's story where he lived together with Yun was also fabricated,